In this video, we're going to show you how to replace a fuel tank sending unit on your Dodge Durango. This is going to be located in the right side, inside of the fuel tank. Let's get started. Before we get started on our fuel pump job, we have to bleed the fuel system. To do this, we're going to open up our fuse box and we're going to go after fuse 70. This is going to be our fuel pump fuse. I grabbed the fuse puller remover and I'm going to pull out that fuel pump fuse and put it off to the side somewhere safe where I'm not going to forget about it. Now we're going to pop into the car and we're going to start it. We're going to let it run until it dies out and then try starting it 1 or 2 more times, and this is when your fuel system will be bled. We're going to move our seat all the way forward, all the way up, and leaned all the way forward to be able to access our battery. Here we are at the back of the passenger seat and we're going to look at the floor. We're going to lift up this plastic tab. There's 2 clips in the back and there's going to be 2 clips in the front. Get the 4 tabs undone and remove the cover. Using a 10mm wrench, we're going to remove our negative terminal from the battery. Remove the battery terminal and put this off to the side where it's not going to make contact with the negative terminal. Now here we are under the vehicle and we're going to remove the hardware for our exhaust. Using a 13mm socket, we're going to remove the 2 nuts for the exhaust. Remove both nuts and springs and do the same thing on the other side. We're going to install a jack under the suitcase of our muffler. This is the one that's right under the middle of the car. We're going to put this here so that when we take the brackets out, it doesn't want to just fall on us. The studs are going through the front, so it won't be able to fall until we take the rear out, but this is a nice helping set of hands for us. On either side of our center muffler, we're going to have our hangers. We're going to have 2 13mm bolts, and we're going to remove those 2 bolts for the bracket. We have these on either side of the muffler, so go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. Follow the exhaust back, and before your next muffler, you're going to find some exhaust hangers. We're going to remove these. Remove the ground strap from the hanger. We're going to use a pair of exhaust pliers, and we're going to push this exhaust out of the bracket. I'm going to twist that up out of the way. Do the same thing on the other side. We're going to reach up through our back bumper right behind our muffler. We're going to pop 1 more bracket off. When you pop this bracket off, be sure you have somebody holding the muffler or a hand on the muffler. This is our last stay holding the exhaust up, so it's ready to come down once this is off. Do the same thing on the other side. This is just inside of the bumper for the rear exhaust hanger. The whole exhaust muffler should be right here, and this is the part you can't see when you're reaching up in trying to push it off. When I was using my pry bar, I think I put it right here and I twisted just like this, which pushed this off. If that doesn't work for you, you can always try and push the top off, whatever one comes off easier. I'm going to put a hand under the center of our exhaust. Get our pull jack out of the way. Now we're ready to remove our exhaust out of the back of the vehicle. We're going to drop it down in the back of the mufflers. I have an assistant helping. And then we're going to pull it out in the front and remove the exhaust. Using an 8mm Allen, we're going to remove the 8 bolts for the drive shaft. I'm going to get all of these cracked free before removing them. I'm going to use a crayon and mark my drive shaft just where it came off. We'll do this on the front and rear. Remove all the bolts. Put a hand on the drive shaft. Get rid of those last 2 bolts. I'm going to install a jack under my drive shaft so that when I pop this off, it doesn't fall down and hit me. We're going to take our hammer and we're going to wrap it right on the side of this, trying to loosen up the rust in between this cup and this spacer. There you go, you can see it start moving now. Now we can get in behind that and pull that whole shaft out away from the rear differential. And now it'll swing freely. We're gonna leave our jack here while we undo the rest of the drive shaft. Moving towards the front of the car up our drive shaft, we're gonna have this shield. There's gonna be two 10mm nuts on either side. Remove the two nuts. Remove the shield. Continuing forward, we have 4 more nuts for our next heat shield. We're gonna use an 11mm socket and remove them. Put a hand on the shield and remove it from the vehicle. On the front of our drive shaft, we have 6 more 8mm bolts. Go around and crack all of them free. Go around and remove all of the bolts. And it is the same thing as the rear, and we're gonna tap on that spacer. You can see it started to make space. Break that rust weld. If your cap came off like mine did, there's a gasket in between these two. Just make sure that the holes are lining up. You can stick a small pick or something through here to get them relined up, but just snug it back onto that spacer. You can give it a small tap with a hammer. Using a 15mm socket, we're gonna remove the 2 bolts for the middle of the drive shaft. Make sure you have a hand on the drive shaft when you remove these. Once we remove this second bolt, this drive shaft is gonna be ready to come out. Remove the drive shaft. Remove the jack that was holding up the drive shaft. Using a 7mm socket, loosen the clamp. Twist the hose until it moves freely on our fill hose. And we're gonna pull this hose off of the filler neck. Be sure you have a drain bucket under you. There's gonna be some fuel left in this hose. Push on either side of the red lock tab and pull it down. I'm gonna remove the red tab. Just pulling on either side. It's very easily installable. I'm gonna use a small pick and I'm gonna go on either side of this connector and I'm gonna pick up the white tabs and I'll push up towards the car. Pull the white lock up and out. Remove the white tab, remove the hose, pull straight back, pull it out. Here we are at the back of the tank in front of the subframe. We have 2 connectors. This first one with the green tab, you're gonna pull that out. You can let that tab drop out. On top of that connection, we have a push button. We're gonna push right in the middle of that connector, right on top. Push down real hard, you'll feel it get spongy. Then you can pull straight back on that tube and remove it. We have one more connection back here. This one's gonna have a blue tab. We have to pick up and lift out on either side. Drop that blue lock tab down. And same action, we're gonna push right in the top middle and remove the hose. Undo the connection. You may have to push extra hard on this tab. We're gonna remove the bulkhead connector for our fuel tank. Push on that tab, pull straight back, remove the connector. I'm gonna tuck that up and out of the way. Now we're gonna use a trim tool and we're gonna pop this connector off of our subframe. Push it up and over. And we have one more plastic stay that's right on top of our subframe right here. Just use that trim tool and pop that plastic stay out and then pull the harness down in to the fuel tank. Now we're in front of the tank on the driver's side and we have one more connection. Same thing, push those 2 red lock tabs back. On this connector, we're actually just gonna push straight down on this tab and then we're gonna be able to release it. We're gonna wrap a towel around this because there should be some fuel in this line, even after you've bled it. So perfect. Our hose just came apart and I feel some fuel going into the rag right now. I'll show you. That connection just pops straight back. right off that line. I'm gonna leave my rag up there to catch any fuel that comes out of that. You can wrap it in a rag. Using a 10mm socket, remove the nut in the middle of the saddle tank. I'm gonna install a jack under my fuel tank to support it. Just like that. Now we can go around and remove all the bolts for the fuel tank straps. We have 3 15mm bolts for each side of our tank. Go ahead and use a 15mm socket and remove the bolts. Do the same thing on the other side, remove all 3 bolts. Now that we have our tank all unstrapped, we're gonna start to go down on it. We wanna do this nice and slow and make sure we're not missing any connections or pulling on any harnesses that shouldn't be pulled on. Slowly start to come down with the tank. I'm gonna slide it back off of that shield. Continue going down, continuously checking all of your wires and harnesses. We're gonna take some compressed air and we're gonna blow out around our fuel pump. You wanna get all the loose dirt out so it doesn't fall into your tank. Push on this tab right here, right on the back. You can see the clip spread. Remove that connector. Open up the red lock tab for the connector. I'm gonna push on the opposite side of it to get it started. It popped right out. You can put it right back in. On the back of that connector, we have our push button to unlock it. Press down on the tab, pull straight back, and remove that connector. I'm gonna pop this hose up. It's just molded into the tank, and move that over to the side. We're gonna use a brass punch so we don't make any sparks, and we're gonna unlock this lock ring. We're gonna hit the back of our punch with a hammer. Unlock that lock ring and lift it off. To pull this sensor out of that tab, just push out on these 2 plastic tabs. We're gonna move our fuel pump to the side enough so we can get our hand in there. You're gonna wanna pull it up slightly and then over. We're gonna reach down onto the bottom where our connector is. This connector is gonna be connected to the jet pump on the other side. We're gonna have to undo this connector. We're gonna reach in beside of the fuel pump, reach down and get onto that connection and remove it. Reach down inside of the tank, and you're gonna feel 2 arrows pointing up at you. You're gonna be able to push these 2 in towards each other, and then you're gonna be able to push that whole clip up, and then you're gonna be able to remove the hose. Using some compressed air, we're gonna blow out around our fuel tank sending unit. Get rid of all of the loose dirt and dust. Remove all of our connectors. Pinch the clip in front right here. Pull straight back. We're gonna have to pop this hose slightly out of the tank. Just follow it back a little bit and pop up, and you're able to move it. Push straight back for the lock, and then push on the connector right here. Pull straight back. Remove that connector. We're gonna push on our lock tab right on top here and pull straight back. And remove it. I'm gonna pull my connectors to the side, out of the way of my fuel pump. Using a brass punch, we're gonna remove the lock ring for our fuel pump. You wanna use brass to make sure you don't make any sparks. Get that lock ring to release. Pull straight up on the lock ring and remove it. Remove the auxiliary fuel pump. Careful with this level gauge. We don't want to bend it or break it. To remove this top connection, we're going to push right on this button, pull straight down, and remove that connection. Remove the transfer pump. We're going to pull this hose that's going over to the other side out. And remove it from the tank. Install the transfer pump assembly. We're going to push that hose up over to the other side of the tank. Get the line installed and pushed all the way over. Reach in and grab your connector and connect it onto that port. Install the transfer hose connection onto the main fuel pump. Make sure you have a nice clean hand when you do this. Reach down in, get that line installed. Feel it fully seat in, you'll hear a click. And then make sure you close that locking tab. You should hear a nice audible click when you do close it, and those pins will snap into place. Line the fuel pump up. Push it down into place. And be sure that locator tab is located in the right spot. Install the fuel pump lock ring. We're going to get it started. We have to get this fully seated. We're going to use a brass punch to make no sparks. Hit it in the clockwise direction. Now we want to get it seated until these raised tabs are in the middle of these clips. Install the line onto the fuel pump. Push the line down into the tank so it snaps into place. Install the connector. Push until you hear a click. If you don't, give it a pull. Make sure it's locked on. Close that locking tab. Install the sensor into the clip. Push straight down. Lock it in. If the hose came out, push it back down in until it snaps. Remove the fuel pump O-ring. We're going to take a clean rag and we're going to clean where that sat. When we do this, we're going to wipe all of our dirt out and not into the tank. Using a clean rag, I'm going to go around and just give that surface a wipe, get all the dirt and crud out. Install the new fuel pump O-ring. Install your transfer pump and be sure that this tab lines up with the locator symbol that is embossed on the tank. Get it fully seated. And install your lock ring. Lock the ring down until it's in the middle of the tabs. Gonna make sure that hose is routed under that harness. Install the connections onto the fuel pump. And then if it popped out of the tank, push it down back into place. Install the electrical connector. Push until you hear a click. Close that red locking tab. Give it a pull. Make sure it's locked on. Pull that vent hose over. Get it installed. Push until you hear that click. Give that pull. Make sure it's locked. Follow it back, pushing it into the tank. Now we're ready to reinstall our tank. We're gonna get our tank installed back into the car. We gotta get up over that plastic shield in the front. I'm gonna stick my hose up there. I'm gonna pull down in the back on the tank. When you're going up, continue taking a look at all of your connections and hoses. Be sure you're not crushing any of them. Get the stud in the rear lined up. Move your heat shield back in place, and we're going to get our bolts started. We have these 2 in the front, and then 2 on either side. Install the bolts in the back side of the tank, and snug them down. Do the same thing on the other side. Moving forward on the side of the tank, we have 1 more. We're going to get this started, and then snug it down. Go to the other side of the tank and do the same process. Snug down the front 2 bolts for the fuel tank. Now that our tank is fully supported by the straps, we can remove our jack that's holding up the fuel tank. Go around and torque all 6 fuel tank strap bolts to 41 foot-pounds. There's 3 bolts on either side. In front of the tank on the left side, we're going to have a connection. Install it onto the line and push all the way in until you hear that click. Give it a push back. Make sure it's locked on. If you had a rag, go ahead and remove that now. I'm going to pull the line down a little bit. We're going to get our white lock installed. Facing the right direction, you're going to have the extra lip in the back. And install the red lock as well. I'm going to pull that locking tab back down. Get the hose installed. You'll hear that white clip click. Give it a pull, make sure it's locked on, and close that red locking tab. Install the hose for the filler neck. Make sure it's fully seated and your clamp is over the rib. Using a 7mm socket, we're going to snug that down. Get it nice and snug. Make sure that the hose doesn't twist on the filler neck. We're going to install the 2 lines in the back of the tank. We're going to install that white connection first. Pull it all the way in until you hear it snap in. Give it a pull, make sure it's locked on, and close that blue locking tab. You're going to get the larger hose installed. Get it fully seated in there. If your lock came out, go ahead and install that now. Give it a pull, make sure it's locked in there. Install the nut onto the stud in the middle of the saddle tank and snug it down. Get it nice and tight. We're going to pull the harness for the fuel tank up and over the subframe towards the rear differential. We're going to install the connector into the subframe with the 2 Christmas tree clips. And we can install the connector. Push until you hear that click. If you don't, give it a pull. Make sure it's locked on. Follow this harness up right on top of the subframe, and you're going to have that plastic stay. Go ahead and get it installed if your stay is still able to. Before installing our drive shaft bolts, I cleaned them on a bench grinder and I applied new blue thread locker to them. We're going to install the drive shaft up into place. Get the center bearing holes lined up and get the bolts started by hand. Snug the bolts down. I'm going to push up so it's fully seated. Torque the drive shaft center bolts to 33 foot-pounds. Install the drive shaft up into place, making sure you line it up with that mark we had previously. I'm going to take all of my bolts over to a bench grinder and clean off all of the old product that's on them, and then we'll put new blue thread locker on before installing. Install the front of the drive shaft up into place, into that flange. Do the same thing with the bolts for the front. Go ahead and clean off all of the old product on them. Get all of your bolts nice and clean, and then apply some new blue thread locker to them. Do this for every drive shaft bolt. Install all of the bolts for the drive shaft. When you install the drive shaft, be sure your marks line up, and then get all of your bolts started. Go around and do this for all of the bolts. Get them started by hand. Go around and snug down all of the bolts. We want this to sit nice and square, so go back and forth when you're tightening it down. We're going to go install the front drive shaft bolt before we torque these down, just so it stays in place while we're torquing them. Go around and get all the bolts started. Snug the bolts down. We want to try and get this flange sitting nice and square. Go around and torque all of the bolts to 41 foot-pounds. We're going to go in a cross pattern here. We're going to go to the back flange and do the same thing. Torque the rear drive shaft bolts to 41 foot-pounds. I'm going to do this in a cross pattern to make sure that the flange seats correctly. Install the heat shield. Get the nuts started over the studs. There's 2 on each side. This is the 2 on the left. And go do the same thing on the right. Snug down all of the nuts. Just get them nice and snug. Do the same thing on the other side. Install the center shield, get it over the studs. Get the nuts installed on either side. Snug down the nuts. Install the exhaust. We're going to get our front bolts started first. Then we're going to move to the rear and get a hanger started. Install the rear hangers for the exhaust. Do this on both sides, and then we'll do the one all the way in the rear for the muffler. Install the ground strap onto the exhaust hanger. Do this on both sides. We're going to reach up inside of the bumper to get our last exhaust hanger. Pull it around to the front and get it on that exhaust. Do the same thing to the other side. We're going to get the hanger into place and get the bolts started. Snug the bolts down. Get them nice and snug, and do the same thing on the other side. Install the spring bolts to the exhaust. Get these started by hand. If you're struggling to push on the nut, you can put a socket over it. Install the spring bolts. Get them around the bolt. Get the nut started by hand and snug it down. Go until the nut bottoms out. Get these nice and snug. And repeat the same process for the other side. Install the negative battery cable. Snug the terminal down. Be sure it's fully seated. Install the plastic panel into place. Make sure you get it all the way forward to those front clips and clip them in. Now we can return our seat, reinstall the fuse, push it down into place, close the fuse box. We're gonna get into the vehicle and prime the fuel system. To do this, get into the vehicle and don't put your foot on the brake pedal and press your ignition until it's in the on position. Repeat this process 2 to 5 times, and then put your foot on the brake pedal and go ahead and start the vehicle.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.